Welcome back to AZ Sports Roundup. Today we have a very interesting subject on our hands, and that is if the college football playoff should expand to 16 teams. I'm going to give you my thoughts, but first, let's get into the intro. So recently, there's been a lot of talk of the 16-team playoff, and there's a lot of good things about this and a few bad things about this, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. Let me just get the mouse right here. So the pros is that there's more competition, there's more teams, which means that there's more potential for like crazy upsets. You could have potentially a 16 seed upsetting a 1 seed. And there could be some unexpected playoff heroes. Of course, like in the NFL or the NBA, there's a big amount of teams in the playoffs, which makes it so that there's a lot of people like Jimmy Butler. I guess he didn't have the greatest postseason this year, but Jimmy Butler, who's made a name for himself in the postseason. And I guess that could carry on to college football. And of course, more entertainment for the viewers. Of course, this isn't all about the viewers. There's people actually playing this game. But for a diehard college football fan like myself, I would love to see more football games and more college football playoff games. The cons, there's more injury risk, and that means that this would make the season longer, and that would make more injury risk. So basically, with more teams being able to get into the playoffs, the regular season becomes less meaningful because, with the 4-team playoff, you could lose one game and potentially not be able to get into the playoff. Teams with 2 losses were out of it, and you would have to be basically undefeated to have a sure shot in the college football playoff, unless if you're Florida State. Sorry, Florida State fans, if you're watching. The regular season, we could have 3, potentially 4 lost teams getting into the college football playoff. And my verdict, yes, I do think that we should expand, but this has to be the last time we expand. I do think that the 16-team playoff is a good idea, except this has to be the last time, because if, let's just say, Alabama doesn't get in again, there's going to be talks of a 24-team playoff, which is a horrible idea. And just more of the Blue Bloods that usually get in don't. They're going to want to expand it, and we can't just keep letting them expand it. I do think 16 is a good number because of good ideas for format, which I will get into later. But this has to be the last time that we expand it. And talking about format, this is my ideal format. I'm sure you've heard the idea before, and this is called the 5+11 playoff format. Let me get out of the way so you can read this. So basically, you have 5 auto bids: the SEC, Big 12, Big 10, and ACC champions, plus the top group of 5 seed. And then there's 11 bids remaining, so just the 11 top-ranked teams. And the top 6 teams ranked, with occasionally the group of 5 team being outside of the 16 would get in. Usually the top group of 5 team is ranked in the top 16. Think of Liberty last year or Boise State this year. I don't think that we'll have a scenario where we have like a Clemson who's a 16 seed making it into the playoffs, or a Boise State who's 9, or an ASU who's a 12, even though ASU was definitely one of the better teams and we surprised some people. And I also think that there needs to be no buys. This year, I think buys were kind of stupid. I like the change for this year, going that it's the top 4 seeds, but honestly, if I'm an ASU fan, and if ASU were to make it into the playoffs, that call me crazy, but I think JT would agree with me on this one. I would much rather have a home playoff game than a bye. All 4 of the teams that got a bye last year lost. And of course, there is benefits of the bye week, as you don't have to play a game and you have a free trip to the second round. However, with 16 teams, that is a good even number, because it's summer. I don't want to do math, but just stand with me. 16 teams, they play 8 games, which means 8 of them will be eliminated. So there's 8 teams remaining. They all play. There's 4 teams remaining, then 2, then 1. That's just a good format. And I don't think that we need to put buys in there because that would just ruin that. Talking about home playoff games, I forgot that this slide existed. I kind of talked about it in the last one. But basically, home playoff games would go to the higher seeds in the first round. No more home playoff games just because there won't be any buys. I do think that there should be home playoff games in the second round with the format we have now, just because the teams that have buys don't get home playoff games. And I think that's an experience that the best teams should have. But with no buys, every team that's in the top 8 gets a home playoff game, which is pretty cool. And just regular bowl games in the next rounds, which I think is pretty fair. So what does this mean for ASU? So this means for a potential home playoff game. And this means that they won't have to win the Big 12 to get in. Of course, they could miss it because teams and the playoff committee don't value the Big 12 as much as I think they should have. I think the Big 12 should be a good conference this year, better than they were last year, in my opinion. And they could get a potential auto bid because they won't have to win the championship every year. And so there's this picture I found. Basically, this was what the 12-team playoff would look if this happened last year. This would be pretty favorable. So we have ASU going against Notre Dame in the first round. Notre Dame did make the championship. They had such an easy path. They had Indiana, who was not good. They had Georgia without Carson Beck, and I still think they were overrated with Carson Beck. And they had Penn State, who, I'll go on a rant for them basically until the college football season, until they prove me wrong. Penn State is consistently one of the most overrated teams in the country. I don't think they were good this year. They're not going to be good this year. I think we would win this, we would win that. I don't know if we beat Oregon, but I think we could, because honestly, I don't think Oregon was that good. We would be top 2. I could see a path where we're top 2. I don't know if we beat Ohio State in the championship, but that would have worked out very favorable for us last year. Of course, this was last year. What if the playoff already happened? We lost in the first round. I'm still mad about that. But I'm just saying that's just a pretty cool thing. So thank you guys for watching this episode of AZ Sports Roundup. If you enjoy the content, please consider liking and subscribing. Sorry we couldn't put out videos the last few days because I was away camping, but I'm back and we'll keep pumping out videos for you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.